Alright guys, back again, and I lied last time where I was gonna review Star Wars Episode 4 next, but I just didn't think in my head in the moment that we've got Solo and Rogue One to review before that. So today let's review Solo, a Star Wars story, which came out last year. It's kind of funny it already has been a year since this has come out. Honestly, actually a year and a half, because I think this came out in May. Is it May of 2018? Yeah, I think it was the first Disney one that came out in May as opposed to December. But this is the second Star Wars spin-off, and it is the lowest grossing Star Wars movie out of all of them, which is really, really sad, because after we had 3 Star Wars movies each consecutive year, we had Force Awakens, then Rogue One, then Last Jedi, then this came out literally almost 6 months after Last Jedi. I felt like that really did taint this movie, where like it made the movie not as profitable. And Disney really wanted to push all these out really quickly, so they wanted to do the Marvel formula, but Star Wars is not the same as Marvel. And even though I love as much Star Wars as I can get, I love all the Star Wars movies, it was just unfortunate that this one really did tank. And it was the first box office bomb Star Wars movie where it made money, sure, it definitely did, but it didn't make enough money to really have them consider doing this, like, big, all these Star Wars movies. Now, since they got Disney Plus, they're going to probably do a lot of those on there. That Obi-Wan movie has already been talked about being just a show instead of a movie. So this movie, in a way, is one of the biggest failures of Star Wars, like, commercially. And it's unfortunate, because, honestly, I really, really love this movie. And I love the fact that this one... Also, another reason I feel like this one didn't do as well is because it's not anything about Jedis. And I know Rogue One did good. Not Force Awakens or Last Jedi good, but it did good, too. But this one in particular really has nothing to do with the Jedis, at least in Rogue One. You know, Darth Vader was in it. In this one, there's nobody except for all these new people. So I really, really appreciated that this movie on its own, they were trying to be out of the norm. But I know Han Solo is a character that is one of the most popular characters ever, and one of the most iconic, so I feel like they thought it was immediately a given to make this movie and people will all see it. But the basic plot of this is that it is a prequel of Han Solo, with Alden Ehrenreich playing Han Solo. And he and this girl Kira, they get separated, and he goes along with this group of smugglers, while Kira goes higher up, and Han Solo just goes on a fun adventure. And I really like that this movie is not like another Star Wars movie in which it is the end of the world type of movie, in which all the other Star Wars movies, the numbered ones, are about a huge villain. Even Rogue One had, even though Krennic was the villain, Darth Vader was still looming in the background, so you did have the big villain in that, still regardless. In this one, the big villain of the movie is just a smuggler leader that just wants his coaxium. So it's not like it's a giant threat to, like, everybody in the galaxy. It's just a threat to Han Solo. Like, they'll get killed if they don't get this coaxium. So I really loved how small scale this was. I really appreciated that. And I really appreciated that it just worked that way in a different type of movie in the Star Wars universe. And I really love and appreciate that. And Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, I think, is actually a good, like, Han Solo. I think that, of course, you can't really completely be Harrison Ford when you're not Harrison Ford, but I think he does a good job of having a lot of similarities to him, and it does feel close to how Han Solo is, I think, in the original trilogy, and I really do appreciate his performance in this. He just is pretty accurate, I think, in his performance. And his chemistry with Chewbacca, I really, really loved. I thought that their first meeting, felt genuine and felt really well done. Like, whenever he's, like, thrown into this pit, and then they say that this monster's gonna eat him, and then it's just Chewbacca, and he talks in Wookiee, and they just become friends. And I love how, throughout the movie, they go through these life or death situations and just become really good friends. And again, it just felt so well done in having them both, like, watching this, I feel like I understand completely without knowing this movie. If this movie didn't exist, I do like the fact that this does exist, and I know that Han Solo and Chewie have this good friendship that started out, and I really appreciate that. And they started at great, legit starting points. And Emilia Clarke plays Kira, who is this new character who's never introduced in any of the other movies or ever mentioned. And she's great too. And like Han, they go separate ways, and they're kind of in love. And she goes higher up, like Han Solo goes down lower. He becomes a smuggler down with where you're at, where he's at a point where he's just he's like in a place where he's not doing anything that leads him higher up in the world. It actually makes him worse because he's going and doing all these smuggling things. And I really like that distinction between both of them and how they have changed, because at the beginning of the movie they separate or get separated. And then whenever he meets her again and she's Dryden Voss is like her boss, she has completely changed and has gone up the chain. And what she has done, I think, is really cool, and how she has made it up there is cool. And I really do like that distinction. And I love how... I'm just going to get to the spoiler, because of course this is a spoiler review. But I love the fact that she... like, Dryden Voss is her boss, but she is also in league with Darth Maul, which I thought was so cool. And I really, really am bummed that this movie didn't do well. I know that they didn't, like, say that the movies were canceled, but I hope that they do another theatrical movie with at least these character arcs continuing, even if it's another solo movie, because I really did I love that cliffhanger with Kira and Darth Maul. I thought that was so well done and just so surprising. So I really, really like Kira too. I thought she was great, and I love the difference between her and Han and how they separate because of going different paths in a really cool way. And I really think it's awesome that Woody Harrelson is here as Beckett, which, again, Woody Harrelson is great in anything, but I really do... I love the fact that this guy... Again, it's kind of obvious, though, with the character where he says, trust nobody, so don't trust him, because at the end he's a bad guy, or he's the guy who will turn on you. But I really believed at the beginning of the movie, just because of how great of an actor Woody Harrelson is, that he really liked Han and believed him, and just really... like, Han believed him and how great their friendship was. I felt like Beckett was such a nice seeming character that it really worked whenever the reveal happened, even though it was kind of obvious. But I really like that. You just really believe the friendship until he shows his true colors. And Donald Glover as Lando, I think, is really great casting. This one. Like, Donald Glover is great in anything I've seen so far, but, like, this was a really awesome casting, because he, in particular, because Donald Glover already has that swag, like, he really works playing this character, and just really funny as well. I love the fact that, like the original trilogy, like, he does have the similarities, with, like, Billy Dee Williams, but this one, I like the fact that he does seem very similar to him, but he does put a little bit of a spin where he's just this funny guy who really does, like he kind of betrays Han too in a lot of ways. Like, he takes his ship at the end, but also Han destroyed the ship by doing the Kessel Run, so it makes sense. But I really, really love Donald Glover as well. And the last person I'll mention is Paul Bettany as Dryden Voss, who is, again, awesome. I love the fact that this is a down-to-earth villain who is just a leader of a gang society. And this, in particular, I think works so well in just a distinction between the other Star Wars movies. And I really love his performance. Like, he is really, really terrifying, but he's also really funny. And I like the fact that he is the boss of everybody now, and whenever Han Solo is thrown into this. And he's nice to them, but he's got that little bit of threatening. Like, for example, whenever they don't get the coaxium, and then he says to them before they leave, like, okay, you guys will get it for me. And then he says, but if you don't, I'll be out of options. And I love that, because he says it in such a nice way, but you know he's like, he says, I'm going to kill you and you're dead if you don't bring back the coaxium to me. So I thought that was really funny and just really threatening at the same time. And Paul Bettany is awesome in this movie. And I really, again, like that he's a down-to-earth villain, as opposed to, like, a a Sith or like anything else like that. And also, I've got to mention L3 too. I forgot about L3. L3 is Lando's robot who, like K2SO in Rogue One, she's really comedic and really funny. And again, her lines in this are so hilarious because this is something that we don't see in other Star Wars movies. But her humor is kind of different. I can see why people wouldn't like it, but her humor is very over the top in a way, but it's really funny with her voice. I don't know what the actress's name is, but she's in a lot of comedy stuff, and she's really funny. But there's a scene where Lando, like, she's piloting the ship, and Lando said, "Do you need anything?" And she says, "Equal rights." And then he just looks at her and just goes, walks away. And then I love the scene between her and Kira, and she's like, "You know, it's awkward because I think Lando really loves me, but I don't want to say anything because it would mess up our work." And like, it's so hilarious with that actress in particular. Like, she does bring such a great piece of humor to it. And whenever they're at the Kessel mines at Kessel, and like she's releasing all the droids, and she's like, "I'm starting a revolution," and like, because it showed earlier in the movie, there's Cage fighting with droids, and like she's trying to convince the droid in the cage, like, they're just using you like for fighting, like, stop it. And like, it's great, and it's sad that she dies too. I actually felt a little bit whenever she died because she was so funny and so memorable. And I love the fact too that Beckett's group before they die, like his girlfriend Val and the other guy, the little monkey guy, I forgot what his name is, but voiced by Jon Favreau. I like that they have such great chemistry too. And it's Rio and Val. I like how they've got great chemistry as well with Beckett and with Solo. And I love the fact that the movie, like Rogue One, makes you feel like they're gonna be throughout the movie, but then they die. And in Rogue One, they die at the end. But like in this, Val and Rio both are just killed, like in that Enfys Nest battle. And it actually gives the movie a lot of stakes, where like you do notice that like these characters, even though they die, they get so much development and likability to them before they go. So I think that it works so well in that sense as well. I just love how so many people die in this, even though, again, it's a prequel, and of course they're not in the original movies, but I thought how they die and how they execute it, I think, is well done, because you get enough of them before. And like when Becca dies at the end, you actually do feel something, even though he's a scoundrel, and Han Solo shouldn't have trusted him. Like, you do still buy that his friendship. Like whenever he says at the end before he dies, like, "I was going to play that instrument," like whenever he's talking to Val at the beginning of the movie, it gave a human-like moment with Beckett, and it really works. And I love the final fight too. I love how it's just a fight in a room, like between Dryden Voss and Kira and Han, and that's literally it. And I love how it's so grounded, and I really love the fact that it's just a little fight, and Kira keeps changing sides between Voss and Han. So whenever she kills Voss, it seems like, oh, that's great. She's finally free of this. But then you realize that, like she says in the movie, everyone works for someone, Han. Like, I love that after Han leaves, you realize that she's working for Darth Maul. And just that surprise in the theater, watching that for the first time, really was incredible. Because it's if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a Star Wars fanboy like me, seeing Darth Maul appear again on screen, and I've seen the Clone Wars show and Rebels, but I love the fact that this makes total sense in this time period that he is there. And it really genuinely surprised me that he was in this movie and that they would put him in this movie. It was such a great surprise. And it gives you such an explosion in your head, like, well, what now? Like, I want to know the rest of what happens with this story. And of course this movie didn't do great, so it's unfortunate, but I know that they're going to probably do it later. They're just probably going to wait. But man, I really loved everything about this movie. And honestly, still, I'd say, this is not an insult to the movie at all, but I'd still say out of all the Star Wars movies, this might be my least favorite. But I love this movie. I love everything about it. But that's saying, like, it's like saying, oh, I've got like 10 diamonds and this is my least favorite diamond, but they're still diamonds. I love them all. That's how I feel about all the Star Wars movies. I love all the movies that have came out so far. And this is no exception. It's just unfortunate because this one is my least favorite. But again, that's no way to insult the movie in any way, shape, or form. I love Solo. It's fantastic. Just everything I said about this movie, really, really love it. And it's one of my. It's just one of the best. It's one of the greatest. Like, even though it's my least favorite, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm just rambling on, but that is my review on Solo. Tell me down below what you guys think of Solo, and thank you guys so much for watching.
Kira, you and I will be working much more closely from now on.